How's it going, folks? I'm Matthew. This is Lemora's Cards, and today we got a pretty big announcement we're going to be talking about. This is going to be a shorter video, but sometimes if, hot bits of news pops up, especially something like this, I am likely to cover it. So we had an announcement from cEDHPT. This is a tournament organizer that organizes European events. I've covered some of their tournaments before, and they had an announcement about working with Wizards of the Coast in regards to cEDH tournaments. So we're going to be talking about that, what that can mean for the community. This is a thing we've talked about and I've said is an inevitability, and we're going to be talking about it now that we see it right in front of us. Before we do, want to give a big thank you to all my patrons over on Patreon. There's gonna be a couple tournament reports this week, so we're gonna get through some of those patron submitted deck list. I've been going to tournaments the past 2 weeks, and it's kind of slowed down my video production, but this week no tournament, so I just get to work for videos. And if you enjoy them, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing so that you get to always see them. And let me know what you want to see next. All that being said, let's hop into it. Use the link in the description below to download Whatnot, and you'll get $15 to use to buy Magic singles, sealed product, get anything that you want, really. There's no limits. You just get $15 on the account for free just for signing up. This is one of the best ways you can support the channel, and again, it's just free stuff. Use the link in the description below. Give Whatnot a try. Welcome to TopDeck.gg, your community's home for everything competitive Magic has to offer. Whether you're hosting an event, playing for a huge prize, or trying to advertise your store to thousands of players, we've got you covered. Using intuitive pairing software, playing Magic is a breeze. All your players have to do is sign up online, then scan the QR code in store. Give your competitors the gift of perfect information as their bracket updates in real time. Then, when the match is decided, our self-reporting software saves you time and leaves paper match slips in the past. Leave the heavy lifting to us so your community can sit back, relax, and have a great day of playing Magic. First up, we're just going to read the statement as it is so that we don't, potentially misconstrue any of it. Let's just go through it. In order to avoid further rumors and questions, please read below. In early March, we were directly contacted by Wizards of the Coast regarding cEDH and tournament organizing and requesting a meeting. Most specifically, the cEDH European Championship for this year, how we put it together, and how it worked. WotC offered support for pricing. Yes, you read that correctly. Due to restrictions that we will have to adopt to accept it, Playtest Cards will have to be left on the side. We declined the offer. Awesome. Later on, we had a second meeting and we closed it with the start of an agreement. When we think the time is right and the community is prepared for it, we will be hosting a solo event with the support WotC offered maybe next year. No matter what, having WotC contacting directly to offer support is something incredible for the format and a turning point for the future of competitive Commander. cEDH is here to stay. Thank you for all your support. We can get a couple of things from this. We know that, like a lot of people expected, like we speculated, when Wizards of the Coast officially does competitive Commander events, that's probably what they'll call them, not cEDH. It'll mean that playtest cards for the most part get left on the side. I do think there is some potential for reserve list cards to maybe be proxied up or have playtest versions of it. So specifics on that we'll have to wait on. Again, even this is like the first bit of this that we're seeing, and even it sounds like it's not happening this year, and most likely it's going to be for something bigger next year. But the prospect of fully proxy friendly events with Wizards of the Coast support is basically non-existent. There isn't any hope for that at all. We can hope that we don't acquire dual lands and stuff like that. I think Wizards of the Coast has just seen the size of this community, and I don't even know if it can actually translate into a tournament scene that large if it requires every single person to have all the dual lands and time twisters. So I'm kind of hoping that there's some lenience on reserve list cards. I actually think that if not, it will be one of like a huge cap on the potential growth. There aren't that many tournament playable time twisters out there. And WotC specifically is one of the best decks in the format, and it requires all the duels that it can run. Time Twister, Yawgmoth's Will, City of Traders, cards like that. There are lots of, most of the decks, pretty much every single deck in this format requires at least some reserve list card. I don't know why Twitter is being trashed right now. And that's a video that I thought about doing on its own. Maybe I will eventually, and talking about how if and when we get to the point where the largest cEDH events aren't allowing proxies, that it actually stifles the growth of the format. I'm assuming there's going to be some wiggle room around that. We're just gonna have to hope. But I expect that what we'll see from WotC backed events is things a bit larger than we've seen so far, at least in pricing. It's hard to speculate on their support, but even this year without their support, we're seeing 12K cash prizes. I believe there's a 20K with card and maybe cash prizes coming up this year. I think I saw that on topdeck.gg. We've seen Twister events, things with pretty high pricing, but if we get closer to that like 20 to 30K cash prize, 50 to 100K is maybe asking a lot for now, but that is where it could go, considering that this is like the fastest growing tournament part of Magic, it seems like, at least from my perspective. It went from almost nothing when I started this channel like 2 years ago to there's a new massive event that sells out every single like couple months. And there's weekly events, there's monthly, like major events. They're happening constantly. Even though I'm like the most don't buy real cards, use proxies kind of person, and if you've watched this channel a lot, you know that, I'm still actually really hopeful that Wizards of the Coast backed events are a boost to the community, are a positive. They're going to be a big thing that everyone gets to look forward to. I think that's really helpful for a community, that something to look forward to, something to strive to get to compete in, something to really be hopeful for and to want to spectate and watch and enjoy and just hope to even be there, not even as a player. We kind of see that aspect of the game with like how the Pro Tour could be sometimes. So I am really hopeful actually for it. I don't think it's doom and gloom, proxies are gone, blah, 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 because there's always going to be those events. We've started grassroots. There's nothing gonna, rip the roots out from under us where we're not going to be able to do proxy friendly events anymore. And we see that with cEDHPT or the Portuguese League. They're saying like, no, we're not going to stop doing, proxy or playtest friendly events. We're going to keep doing them, and even saying no to Wizards of the Coast, who I imagine when their first approach had a only do this kind of deal in mind. And no, they stood their ground. They said, no, we're not going to do that. We are still going to want to do the events that we've been doing with the rules we have and being super accessible. And I think that is amazing. So that makes me pretty hopeful that we're going to be able to just have this on top of what we already do, and maybe as like a bigger thing to get to look forward to as a community. It will be interesting to see how this changes things up. We talked about in the last podcast episode, Twitter's just doomed. How I think once we get to those really big, like we have a super major, say that Wizards of the Coast did a 30 whatever K cash prize, like 15K to the winner, something like that, right? Huge cash prize. How I think it's going to change the meta game, right? And but it will also change who comes to the game. And I think that'll be awesome. Like if we have more tournament grinders from, standard, pioneer, modern, whatever, just the people from the big teams like Channel Fireball, things like that, who end up playing cEDH because the prizes are good enough, it's going to be awesome. And it will be a big influx of change and new things happening and experimenting. And at first it might seem negative. I would not be surprised if the first, super major event with an insane amount of money on the line, 40% of the field is Timid Crime, and then like 20% is to say, and there's a bunch of rock size, and the other shrinks, because I think these kind of events will tend to appeal to the most highly competitive players. They probably have a higher buy-in or potentially even qualifier. When you're playing for money like that, you're probably going to see the cuteness of what a lot of people do in the game currently kind of shrink up, but there will be more brewing and experimenting and optimizing that leads into whatever the like solved game is. So I think that's going to be cool, where we might end up looking like a more stagnant meta game, but I think it's going to take a lot of development and a lot of new eyes on the game before that happens. Ultimately, I think it's going to be a good thing. And then also, I actually think if Wizards of the Coast is looking at the game like this and wanting to promote it and they're putting money into it, maybe that means that there might be some considerations for approaching this format from a tournament mindset. Like, hey, we're going to help iron out the multiplayer competitive rules. Or, hey, we're going to make this ban list even remotely reasonable. Now, I don't expect them to do a separate ban list. What is the RC and the CAG for at this point? Maybe do your own bans and keep all the, we ban this card so that you hopefully don't use this card out of it. And we ban Library of Alexandria, which would be totally useless. And, going up one card versus 1 mana in a 1v3 format isn't really that good. Just some nonsensical bans. So I think this is going to be really big. I don't think this is going to be the only organizer they reach out to. I think there's probably already discussions with other ones. I don't have any insider info on any of that. I think this is awesome news. Again, there will be pros and what appear to be cons, but I think it's really just going to be, there's going to be a lot of change, and change is always going to be what, something that people are hesitant to embrace. Let me know down below what you think of official Wizards of the Coast backed tournaments. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited for it. This isn't to me, this wasn't the most shocking thing. I read this and I was just like, yeah, I knew I was gonna wake up and see this one of these days. I've been talking about it since I started. This is just the future of this game. I don't think we're at the peak at all. I think we're still watching the rise up through there, and cEDH is here to stay, and it's gonna keep getting bigger and bigger. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and as always, go play cEDH. Have a good one, everybody.